see her lying back in her satin dress in a room where you do what you don't confess. Sundown, you better take care if I find you've been creeping round my back stairs. Sundown, you better take care if I find you've been creeping round my back stairs.
Happy Homebrew Wednesday. This, look how pretty that is. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Social Distancing IPA. This is a West Coast IPA. It's one of those ones that when you brew it, you're not sure how it's going to come out when you first put it on, because when I first put this on the keg, which was, when was that? I guess it was Friday. I guess it was Friday. I tried it Friday night and it was kind of funky. I wasn't sure that it was going to come out. And then I tasted it on Saturday and then it tastes a lot better. And now I've been tasting it every day since then and it has just gotten wonderful. It smells like you got your head in a bag of hops. Perfect IPA. I mean, this is it's funny. It's only 6.6. I think one of my favorite IPAs is Racer 5. I might actually like this better than Racer 5. I think Racer 5 is about a 7.2 beer. This is 6.6, so it's pretty close in ABV. It has that, I call it nectar quality. I call it like a hop nectar, is what Racer 5 reminds me of. This, you know, has that nectar quality. It's got that nice, you know, hop, a little bit of sweetness, or stickiness, not sweetness, stickiness, a little bit of bounce from the malt. It's very flavorful, very aromatic. God, it's just a wonderful. It's my jam. This is my jam of an IPA. And the cool thing about it, this thing is it's called Social Distancing IPA. So I made it. It's a pantry beer. I made it with just a crazy amount of grains. It's mostly Pilsen malt. So I think I used probably a pound or less of Belgian Pilsen malt. I used a whole bunch of Avantgarde, probably 6.8 ounces or 6.6 or 6 pounds, 6 ounces of the Avantgarde that I had in my what I had left in my grain bucket before I bought some new Pilsen malt. I used some Munich Light. I used a very small amount, like 4 ounces of Caramel 120. I used about 8 ounces of Carapils. I used a pound of Vienna, I think. I mean, I just used everything in the kitchen sink in this thing. And for hops, I used Columbus for bittering, I think about a quarter of an ounce at 60 minutes. And then I used a combination of Eureka and Galaxy, a whole bunch of Eureka and Galaxy. And then I think I dry hopped with the remaining Columbus and the Eureka and Galaxy. For yeast, I used Imperial's A15 Independence, which I think was one of the ones from the yeast experiment that I really like, that I like the most. And I think it's good. It's the Imperial A15. You're supposed to, you know, it brings out hop character, but it also adds slight esters, so it makes it a little bit more complex than just normal California ale. It's very similar. It's very clean, but it gives you just a slight ester, which I think plays very well with the hops. In this case, it was Eureka and Galaxy, and it played very well. So, yeah, just a good piney, resiny, bitter, like all the things I like about an IPA. The mouthfeel on this thing is like perfect. I think I did 153 for the temperature. Man, it's just a really, really, man, can you tell how much I like this beer? And the cool thing is, man, look how pretty that is. I was just about out of, actually I was out of IPAs. I have no more IPAs in the house to speak of. So this thing got on keg at the perfect time, because now I've got this. I have my SJ Pour beer remaining on tap. I have this. I have a German Pilsner, which is it's lagering right now for the last week. So I'll have that probably on Sunday or Monday. I'll have that ready to go. And then Old School, which we'll talk about that next, that I did for the Unity Brew Day. So yeah, this is just, man, when you, and I don't know, I guess I can do this again because it's a crazy grain bill. For the most part, Pilsner, but I mean, to recreate this, I'll need to get some Munich and some Vienna. So I can brew this again whenever I want. I did keep measurements, and I have the recipe. If anybody's interested, I'm happy to send it to you guys. And I think I did the Brew Day social distancing IPA. Pretty sure it's probably a couple of Homebrew Wednesdays ago. God, it's just so beautiful. Look at that thing. God, you can tell when I really love me some IPAs, and when I make a good one, it makes me very happy. I don't think I've made an IPA this good since Old School. And the good thing about this one is you can drink this a little more than Old School. I mean, so let's switch over and talk, now that I've loaded over my own beer enough. Let's switch over and talk about the Unity Brew Day. So Saturday we did the Unity Brew Day. That was Stephen Poor's idea to unite all the homebrewers around the globe. We did have a global participation. We had Alex, who is in Denmark. So he dialed in for a good portion of the time. He was on there for a lot of my brew day. I think we had Sam from Canada joined. I'm not sure if we had anybody from the UK in. At least they weren't in the groups that I was in. I joined in a Zoom platform that main brew guy Gary set up, and we were all brewing. It was a lot of fun. The only one that wasn't brewing, at least that I saw, was poor Matt from Rhett Brewery. He had just gotten off work, so he was doing good enough just to stay up and have a beer with us and chat before he had to go crash, because he was working his shift thing. So he unfortunately didn't get to participate. I think they may be planning another one. But it was a lot of fun. Everyone was using different platforms. Like I said, we used Zoom. I think we have that for BrewTubers now. You can do up to 100 participants, and it worked really well. We were able to stream it on live on YouTube. I think a couple of folks did that while we were in the Zoom. And I won't show any footage because there's a couple of different live streams that are posted out there with us on there. But it was a great group. I think at one point we had like probably 10 or 11, brewers at a time. I think at the most, but for a while we had about probably, 6 or 7 of us and that was a good manageable amount to kind of sit and talk about what we were doing and have a little bit of fun. And I think Nick was on there for a while, Wally Feck, Maine brew guy Gary, Dennis Penn, a guy named Dave, I can't remember his last name. He was on there. Who else? Am I missing somebody? Oh yeah, then Beaver Dog Brews came in, Nate Peacock came in, and then later on we had Elder join, SJ join, Bailey Poor join, Mary join. I mean, a lot of folks, I think as they were leaving other channels, they jumped in. So it was almost like a rolling Unity Brew Day, and people were jumping back and forth between platforms. I stayed on the Zoom because we had a good group of folks and I was having fun. So, and it was an awesome brew day. Except I had a boil over. Don't know if I got any. I'll show some clips here of any stuff I have from the brew day. I don't know if I got the video of the boil over.
Yeah, Zoom. Sorry, real quick. Zoom's not on the list of destinations. Aware of it.
All right. Well, let me find out what Chris Salma's using because his is like flawless.
Okay. Well, he's probably doing what I would do if I had a good connection, as I can stream Zoom into Facebook or YouTube. But the problem is my upload, as like 0.5, so I just don't know if it's going to work.
Yeah.
But Gary, you have to have over 1,000 followers right now to stream on YouTube, I think.
I have 13K, 1,300.
No, but what about Dave?
I've got it.
I've been doing it all day, and I've only got. If you do it through OBS.
Where are you at? You're
I still think they're safe out there. So we decided to close the sales floor, and then like 3 days later, Travis County here in Augustin issued out a document. So they said non-essential businesses need to close. But we've been doing a lot of work with
A lot of hops. Had a little bit of a boil over. A lot of brew tubers. There's Nate. I'm gonna call this 1090 old school. So yeah, so you should have seen some of that. And interestingly enough, I figured since SJ wasn't on the Zoom at the time that I would be okay, but no, I was too busy. I went into the. I was doing something in the sink, and then I turned around, and I think it just boiled over a little bit. It wasn't a whole lot, but it was still a boil over. I gotta stop doing it. Damn, I like this IPA. Wow, this is good. I'm so happy with this. Man, this is my new flagship because old school is good, but old school is good, but it's a double IPA. This is just under a 7%, so it's a little bit more sessionable, right? And it's still got a ton of flavor. And I'm not going to change a thing. I love this. It's dialed in on my first time brewing it by accident, and I'm keeping it. That's usually how you do good recipes. You brew something, just throwing some stuff together, and it ends up being an awesome recipe. And that's what this is. Weird that it had Crystal 120 in it, right? So anyway, the brew day was old school, double IPA. I had an extremely efficient mash. I think I was probably, 88% efficiency, something like that, 85 to 88. So I ended up, I used my normal 13.5 pounds of 2-row, and instead of doing, I used to do caramel crystal 30, but that's kind of a hard one to find. You can't find it anymore. So then I started doing some 10, some 20, and so I decided this time just to even it out and do 3 pounds of caramel crystal 10, and I guess I probably should have limited it to a pound or less because I ended up, normally I'm just under 9%. This one's going to be 10% and maybe even higher. Final gravity on it, or the pre-boil gravity was, I have to go back and look at it. I exceeded all my numbers. The runoff was like 1095. The post mash, what was it? Here, let's take a little trip. Let's take a little trip and we'll go and look and see what it was. And maybe we'll even take my beer. Gotta get my beer, boy. Maybe we'll even look at the fermenter and see how it's going. So here we go. So yeah, so there's my numbers. So I was looking for a pre-boil of 1069. You can see I hit 1073. And then I was looking for an OG of 1087. I hit 1090. So yeah, it was a nice brew day. And this is what I normally do. Like I still have my boil kettle soaking in PBW. And what else? Let's look at the. Here's a peek at the. Here's a peek at the Pilsner, the German Pils. I think I'm going to call that Poppin' Pils. And here's the beer. I think you can see it. Let's see. Can you see that? You see stuff swimming around? Hopefully you can. Yeah, I had to put a blow-off tube on it. Probably don't need it anymore, but sorry, I'm swinging you around. Hopefully you can see that. All right, let's go back in the other room. Sorry, my finger's in the way of the camera. Okay, back. So anyway, yeah, it's gonna get down to probably, unless it gets stuck, it'll probably get down to 1016, I would say, 1013 to 1016, unless it gets stuck. I used for yeast, I used the normal, well, it's Chico yeast, but I used the, what is it, Alpha 07, whatever the flagship is for Imperial, that's their Chico. And then I also, just for good measure, threw in a tube of White Labs WLP 001 California Ale. So that should get it where it needs to be. That should have it ferment out. It's been going since Saturday. It's still chugging. So I'll probably let it go for another week, and then put the dry hops in, let it go for 7 days, and then I'm not going to rush it. I'm going to let it finish, get really clean. By that time, I will have finished this keg probably because it's so good. Social distancing. This was the perfect name and the perfect recipe to brew for this IPA, because it is so good. It is keeping me from having to go and man, look how clear that is. Look how clear that thing is. And the color on this thing, you're seeing the exact color it is. It's this nice kind of gold, like straw color. So, I hear my wife walking around upstairs. But anyway, it was a perfect beer to brew for the quarantine, because it's just good. It's keeping me from even wanting to go to the store. I'm happy drinking this. I mean, as happy as I'd be drinking Racer 5 or one of my favorite IPAs. It's really, really good. I will try to bottle some up, and I owe some beer mails out, and I'll send some out. When I first kegged it, I took probably the next morning, and into the next day, started, sipping some and thinking like, oh, this is going to be a waste of, well, it wasn't a waste because it was stuff that I already had, but it's a waste of that yeast, but it just came into its own. I did use gelatin in it, and you see how clear you get from gelatin. I did use some gelatin in it, but yeah, it just, I guess it just, you drink a green beer, you always want to jump to conclusions. We were talking about that the other day on the Unity Brew. You drink a beer and you're like, oh, it's not going to be good. And this one I thought was going to be too bitter, but it's smoothed out, and just now it's got this, and Josh Hoover likes this about my IPAs. That most home brews, you don't get the kind of the deep bittering. You get, and if people try to do a deep bittering, it becomes way too harsh. This is a very deep bittering, but it's smooth, meaning it hits you up front, and then it just kind of smooths out on your palate. So it's a lot more bitter than you're used to in a homebrew, but it's not in a harsh way. It's not off-putting at all. It's a nice, clean bittering, and just goes really well and smooths out with the flavors. And then the hops, yeah, it smells. If you're one of those people like me that one of your favorite parts of the brew day is to rip open a bag of hops and just sit there and smell them, then you'll love this beer, because it smells. It's one of the ones. There's a beer in the local brewery. Here, Fairwinds Brewing, called Howling Gale. I know, I've sipped that with Josh and Larry, but it's one of those ones that just has this awesome hop aroma, and that's what this does. I'd never used Eureka before, so this was a new thing for me. This is one of the ones we got from the yeast challenge. We got some Eureka hops from Hopsteiner. Thank you so much. These things were awesome. The Galaxy hops I got from NHC last year. It was I bought a big can of it, so it was like 6 ounces of hops. I think it was 6 ounces. Yeah, and the Columbus, I think I had the Columbus in my freezer. Man, I'm just kind of rambling on now, but you can tell I'm just very happy with this beer. So the Old School that's coming out, I have big hopes for this one. It's the biggest Old School I've ever done. So it's, someone had mentioned one time, hey, I'd like to see you. I think it was Josh Hoover wanted me to take Old School and turn it into a triple. I've never done that before. This will be the closest I've ever come. I mean, 10% is the highest. I mean, usually it's 8.7 around this. This one's going to be 10, north of 10, I think. So if it's got all of the characteristics of old school and more, then it should be a pretty damn good beer. So knock on wood, we'll see what happens. I think that is my update for today. Don't have any brewing plan this weekend. Still a quiet day. We're still dealing with COVID-19, and things are starting to kind of level off, it looks like, across the country. So, you know, they're talking about opening up the economy again, so that's good. We don't think we're going to have as much death as we thought we were going to have, which no death is good, but hopefully it's not going to be as much as we thought. And yeah, you know, people, neighborhood has really come together. I'm on the board of my neighborhood civic association. So we've been doing some really good stuff around the neighborhood, so that's fun. And it's my first elected position. How about that? Didn't even have to run, really. I thought I was gonna have to get up and give a stump speech, and they're like, "Hey, shut up! You know, we're just doing a roll call vote. And hey, guess what? You're in." So, but as far as I know, it was a close. You know, it was all of the canvassing I did through the neighborhood of all the You know, no, I didn't do any. So, yeah. Anyway, all right. I'm rambling on enough. Hey, enjoy this week. Have yourself a happy homebrew, and enjoy the brew days videos that we did. If you haven't seen them, go check it out. One of my good buddy Stein jumped in, and we gave him a little shout out live, so that was kind of cool. And have yourself enjoy the next one we do. I think there's a International Brew Day coming up on May 2nd as part of the American Homebrewer Association. Don't know if we're going to coincide with that, so more to follow. SJ Pour, all the scores are in. You got the scores announced. Now we're getting ready to go to round 2. I'm in this one, baby. So that's going to be fun. And have yourself a very. Hey, so I need to jump back on and share probably what my wife would normally say is too much personal information. But it's a funny story, and I got to share it. So my wife cooked this dinner 2 nights ago with beets. Like it had beets, a whole bunch of beets. I'm trying to remember. We had some kind of pork chop. It was the dinner was awesome. The beets were in the salad, and the salad had this cool balsamic vinegar and some goat cheese and some other stuff, but it had a whole bunch of beets. So, and we had the salad that day, and then the next day, Monday for lunch, I had lunch, and she's like, "Hey, does anybody want to eat the rest of these beets? You know, you can make a salad, you can do this and that." And I was like, nah, I don't want to. This, you know. So I went in there. I wasn't going to eat lunch. I was on a bunch of work calls and everything. So I went in there, and all of a sudden I got hungry, you know. So I went in the refrigerator and I found the beets. And instead of making a salad, it was like 2 whole beets. Instead of making a salad, 2 whole beets. Instead of making a salad, I said, let me just eat them, right? So I went and got a fork and a knife, and I sat there, I think it was on one of my work calls, and I'm eating these beets. I mean, it was a lot of beets. It was really good, but I ate like 2 whole beets. So I was finished. And then later that evening, I think Heather was on a work call or something, and I went to go use the restroom, right? Number 1. And I almost passed out. I mean, the color of the fluid was like a murder scene. I thought somebody got killed. It was not natural. It didn't look like anything that would come out of a human being, and it was pretty crazy. I had completely forgotten about the beets, and I'm like, oh my God! I'm thinking I'm dying. Like my kidneys have shut down. Like what the hell's going on? Did I get like radiation? You know, did I get some kind of poison? Like, you know, is this COVID-19? You know, and then after about panicking, because I couldn't go in there and bother Heather because she was on a work call. Don't want to like get in her camera zone when she's doing her Zoom, right? So I sat there like freaking out, going through WebMD, like what did I do? Then I remembered, I had 2 beets, whole beets for lunch. So I went and Googled like, hey WebMD, hey Siri, you know, does beets make your urine change colors? And sure enough, Siri came back and said, oh yeah, and it takes about 24 hours. So crisis averted. Figured I should throw this in here before I say farewell because I missed that story, and I'm sure you guys could get a laugh out of it. The things that we do during quarantine, right? This will be one of those stories that I reach back into the vault in days past once my grandkids were on my knee, and I said, let me tell you what happened to me, my scare during the COVID-19 crisis. All right, hopefully back to your normal scheduled programming.